For this 100th episode, I have taken a look back and created a compilation of many of the episodes for you to enjoy. I share my gratitude for you, my listeners, all of you that have watched the YouTubes. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. A heartfelt thank you. It's been a phenomenal journey and we haven't quite reached our second anniversary yet. Please keep listening, keep watching and let me know which episodes resonate with you. Welcome to today's episode with me, your host, Anita Mattu, as I share our 100th episode and my gratitude to you. This is the 100th episode and I am truly proud to have reached it. I know I have learned so much from podcasting and how not to podcast. I have gained so much knowledge from each and every one of my guests. It's been mind-blowing. For this 100th episode, I have taken a look back and created a compilation of many of the episodes for you to enjoy. I share my gratitude for you, my listeners, all of you that have watched the YouTubes. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. A heartfelt thank you. It's been a phenomenal journey and we haven't quite reached our second anniversary yet. Please keep listening, keep watching and let me know which episodes resonate with you. What are you enjoying most about the podcast? Is it the masterclasses or is it the courageous stories? Or is it both? I would love to know. Let me know which episodes resonate with you. What do you want more of? We have an amazing lineup for 2024 and I am thrilled the way this year has started. Thank you to all my guests that have shared their courageous stories. And at times that hasn't been easy. Stepping up, showing up, your vulnerability in who you are being. I am absolutely grateful for you. Thank you to all the guests that have shared their knowledge with us in their masterclasses, full of insightful wisdom and nuggets. I share my gratitude for all the listeners that have listened and that have watched the YouTubes. Thank you so much. Please do like, share, and subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel. This is where the difference is made. It creates a ripple effect and other people get to hear. And you never know who just may need to hear this particular episode and it could save them. More importantly, I am here to help and serve you. This channel doesn't mean anything without you. It's you, the listeners, that make it and the guests that make it by sharing with one another. We create a community and communities make a difference in the world. And that just leaves me to say thank you for all your continuous support and love for me, my channel, my podcast, and the coaching work that I do. I have absolute gratitude for each and every one of you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening to Create the Courage to be Fearless. I love you, Anita. One fatal day, my entire life changed. And I knew I could never go back to being the person I was before I got that phone call. I was 24 years old and barely an adult. Although, like most young adults, I thought I could take on the world. I had no idea, no clue that overnight I would be signing up to take on the biggest commitment and responsibility of my entire life. But let me backtrack to understand how huge this decision was for me. I would like you to know a bit more about my backstory. I knew only too well how cultures and taboos can dictate, and I would have to suppress my true identity from fear of being found out. So the secrets and shame continued, but this time on my terms.
Yeah, I was a Jehovah's Witness and I was very depressed and I was going through some stuff. And the more I evolved and the more I got rid of a lot of the dysfunction that I grew up in, I was able to make space.
There is nothing I can do to help you. There is no medication. There's no treatment. There's no cure. And right now, there's no hope.
If my child can sit and tell me, Mum, it's time for me to go, And I can say to her, it's time.
In that moment, our lives fell apart, basically. You know, the dream that one has, you know, the idyllic lifestyle, the beautiful place.
Every night I would go to bed crying and wishing that I wouldn't wake up the morning after. And I used to hate myself and have feelings of guilt and regret.
Most of us spend so much time in a state of stress, you kind of think that it's normal.
Yeah.
It's not. You are not designed to be in that state. And over time, it will destroy you. The first thing you start to notice is your energy levels will fade. Then you're more likely to get ill because stress destroys your immune system. You're more susceptible to a cold or a flu. Stress Awareness Month 2022 is to bring ourselves back to something that's real. That, my dear friend, is the antidote.
North, happy, impulsive, joking all the time, not being able to sit down, can't concentrate, feelings of euphoria, danger. And then you have South, which is extreme sadness, suicidal thoughts, total depression and shutdown, not being able to eat.
At what point in time for a man that is told to suck it up, you know, be a man, if you're not being pushed necessarily by somebody into self-discovery, at what point in time does the switch flip to start asking big questions of yourself? Ask those deep soul-searching questions, which is scary.
It's easy not to make changes, but it's also really easy to make changes. And yet we look at so many people in the world who don't make changes. I would say it's not a knowledge gap that people have, it's a doing it gap.
Years ago, I was terrified of food.
Gosh.
I was terrified of social occasions that had food, or, you know, anything that involved eating, going home for Christmas, going to friends' houses, going out to a restaurant. It just created so much anxiety and fear in me.
And every time you go to the doctor, they're just like, everything's fine, everything's fine. No, it's not. You know when your body's not right. So that's why, you know, I found the missing keys in my body. And when I found functional diagnostic nutrition, I was overjoyed because they gave me a lot more of the biochemistry behind it. And they gave me the training in labs so that I can look inside the body of somebody.
Career fulfillment, more relationship fulfillment, better sex, better friendships, better creative projects, better community, more traditional cultures that really revere women, helping them to reframe it as a spiritual initiation into what can be the most impactful, healthy, powerful time of your life.
The best psychics will say, here are your opportunities and how to grab them. Here's the tough stuff. Here's how to get through it or around it. Here's your toolbox. Because we hand you the toolbox. We're not the repairman. Remember, free will is the name of the game. We tell you we see a snapshot, but it's not a guarantee. For instance, there was a woman who came to me and said, I want to know where my husband is sleeping with his mistress. I said, I'm sorry, I don't do remote spying. There are certain rules we will not cross.
I stood in the bathroom and said to my husband, you're going to have to help me to the bed. I can't move. I'm in agony. We need to call an ambulance.
When I was growing up, we didn't even have language. Nobody used the word gay when I was in school. The language wasn't mainstream. So I was deemed a sissy. And I was picked on and bullied and beaten up. It was physical abuse throughout my entire school years. It was extremely traumatic, but you know, I look back now, all these years later, with gratitude.
All of a sudden, I felt drops land on my jacket, and then I smelt the petrol, my brain went into overdrive, I heard the scream. Not only do we have to come out and, like you said, closets are for clothes, about turning inwards.
Yes.
Seeing ourselves, you know, who are you? What do you want in this world? What have you got to offer the world? Is because so many people don't know who they are.
it was valid for us to get rid of him. That's how bad I at one point hated my father. The years and years of abuse and the emotional toll that it took on us was far greater than the physical abuse. And when I talk about physical abuse, I am talking like black eyes, bloody lips, like chunks of hair missing, like it was horrible. So for me to learn to forgive my father was years and years of digging deep into who I was and who I wanted to be.
But for neurodivergent kids, what happens is that the things you breaking down a word into such tiny pieces, they can't relate to it.
Holding my books, walking down the hallway, terrified. My head was down. I was looking at the floor. I was almost to the classroom that I had to get extra help in. And one of my buddies turned the corner and he says to me, "Hey, Katie, go into the special classroom." And I remember looking at him and standing up straight and tall and saying, "Yeah, I am." It was the first time I ever got to stand up for myself, to truly stand within myself and stand up for me being different and being grateful and okay to be different.
An encouraging, healthy path for him. And he started saying things like, "I'm never going to get any GCSEs. Could he be homeschooled?" I had no idea of what that looked like or where to start, but I didn't say no. After a while, I just felt this feels like the wrong path for him to be in this education system in this way. We need to explore other options.
Like I remember, like I'd actually cry because I couldn't read. Like it was so difficult understanding words, and I was thinking, you know, these I can't read these big words, and everyone can read them. At that point, I would. Now that I'm older and wiser, and I've kind of learned to appreciate my dyslexia and see it as a superpower. Yes. I would say I wouldn't change it now because it's part of my personality. It's part of who I am. You know, it's like it's the whole way that your brain is kind of wired.
I'd just been given a cancer diagnosis and I said, "Oh yes, I fully understand." But she thought I'd gone into La La Land or something. It was the most emphatic experience I've had of human beings in action, being completely present in the moment. So I would wander in and sit in the waiting room, and there would be about half a dozen people, heads down.
I have survived life's journey and the things that was thrown at me that was meant to take me out early on in life. So I'm thankful that I'm not the only survivor, and that although others were victimized, like we don't have to stay the victim, but have the desire to thrive in life. And that means you need to heal. You have to choose to heal. Somebody would open up to you. I'm going to start with that because sometimes we don't know how to respond in that moment. And all you need to say is, "I believe you and thank you for trusting me."
Boundaries are huge for people with post-traumatic stress disorder. I think a lot of us have unresolved childhood trauma that we don't even realize is kind of sticking around and influencing our lives. And when I started to journal, I realized I needed to start asking myself really tough questions. And I journal a few pages and I realized how much it was helping me. They weren't fleeting thoughts anymore. They were more goals for me to work on.
Because as a parent, I'm sure you understand, you try to teach them all these lessons, and some of them they're going to get, some of them they're not right away. We should all be working towards educating our children on money because it's as essential as the sex talk.
Yes.
You want them to practice safe sex. You also want them to practice safe debt accumulation, because it's going to haunt them or help them for the rest of their lives if they don't understand how it works.
You realize when you come into a crisis like that life is short. You can be going along in life thinking everything's fine, and then all of a sudden, whammo, something happens. And so I really started looking at, how am I spending my time? Who am I spending my time with? Essentially, I'm asking somebody to go under the knife for me. It took a lot of bravery, a lot of courage. It was so humbling to put myself out there so vulnerably like that, and to be able to ask for what I needed.
700 rejection letters over those years. So it took a very long time, and trust me, possible to get a publisher. Even the nice ones can bring you down because they're so nice. It's still a rejection. I remembered this dream starting out when we were age 16. And we did these little books all about Professor Howard and Co., an imaginary family that were very rich with a cantankerous professor who wanted to wreak havoc with his inventions. I went to go and see a medium, a very good medium, and she was absolutely incredible. And she told me, well, you've got it. It's in your family. And so I started to investigate it.
Being filmed from the perspective of so how a woman came up with the idea of men focusing on their mental health, male spaces, and by deliverers who are predominantly men. So that's the key thing. It's more so about men influencing their own space and their own narrative. And also sometimes if you're talking about improving your diet to help manage the menopause, and if someone eats a cultural diet, you need to talk about their cultural diet. Don't talk about foods that they will never eat or never enjoy, because it's not part of their cultural palate.
Choosing how you want your life to be, whatever your dream is, whatever it is you truly want, to really get to the heart of the matter. Use your breath in such a way that it takes you into a state of relaxation. And when you're in a state of relaxation, then you're in a much more resourceful state. And that will enable you, then assist you to stay connected with your vision and to also come up with
layers and layers of labels. It's that whole sense that the more that you conform to somebody else's ideal as to how you should show up, the more you lose sight of who you are in that inner space, that inner sanctum that is only yours and only you can have vision of it or can see it. That's when the magic happens.
Why do we have to go through this tumultuous journey to just accept who we are in our own heads, and then having to tell other people that I'd be disowned, that I wouldn't be welcomed home when I would go back to the UK? All the shame I felt, all the embarrassment, because this is what happens to people. And then they do have significant mental health issues.
Reverse engineer this and go back to where the kids start developing dyslexia and see if we could stop it happening. And it just seems a no-brainer to me to encourage them to develop the simple skills that I've been teaching for 22 years in preschool. Every dyslexic you hear interviewed talks about their visual strengths. So we just scaffold into their literacy for them. But that's how we're moving forward.
As humans, we're part of nature. And when we look to nature, we see natural growth. We see natural unfoldment.
A history in your Akashic records in this library. And it is possible that from a past life, there still is an energetic connection to the present time. This means that there is still an impact in what is happening in this present time. Example from one of my clients. So coming back to this idea, going on stage, an experience from a past life still can have an impact in the present time.
This battle that I had been waging and trying to get help with, I was alone in it, and I had spent so much of my life feeling alone that I was just exhausted from it. And I set a date for 1 month down the road that I was going to end my life. There are the 3 areas of my life that I'm struggling with, that I've struggled with for years, but are on the verge of ending my life over. I can't accept and live with my mental illness, but I got to do the work.
You must live this way, and you must do this, and you must conform, and you must be a good Muslim girl, and you must marry the person that we choose for you. And that was the program that I had followed. That was a huge struggle growing up. So I really grew up with no self-esteem, no sense of self-worth, no idea what was right or what was wrong or what I should or what I shouldn't do.
You do have the power to choose which path you want to take. For 32 years, you've chose the path of being a drug addict. You were just manifesting the destiny of a crackhead for 20 years.
Absolutely.
Now you can't manifest the destiny of a person in recovery? Now it sounds kind of weird to you? Now it sounds like hocus pocus, or it sounds like it is extremely important that I remember what my goal is every day when I wake up, and I remember who I am every day.
And that part of the brain helps us think logically, make positive choices, make decisions on our values. It's mature. It only gets fully developed in our mid-20s. This is where we learn new skills. And you use that time to do some sort of practice that creates stillness and calms your nervous system. You will notice that you respond a lot more throughout the day. You will be a lot less reactive.
And this is that incredible creative force that comes to us through our superconscious. And that's where we get lit up, where our essence lies. The very first organ of the human physiology is the human heart. And that's where consciousness resides. And literally, when we are focused on doing what we love, our heart has a neural network pretty similar to our brain. And our heart actually feeds the brain.
And it's not even just the child, it's the family, because we put the wish together. The family get that time to spend together as a unit. For that moment in time, all they're thinking about is being happy and enjoying that time. They're not thinking about the illness. They're not thinking about what they have to arrange, what they have to do next. They're just enjoying it, accepting that I wasn't where I suppose society wanted me in life, which was to be married and have kids. And I didn't have that.
And I just decided I'm sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And I decided I will never choose to feel hopeless ever again. And then the light bulb went off. I had an epiphany. Well, Gary, it's just a choice, right? You can choose hopelessness or you can choose hope. Stop watching crap. Like, it doesn't do anything. We need to guard our consciousness. We need to guard our eye gate and our ear gate and our mind gate. It's critical what we're putting into our biocomputer. What we put in, we get out.
Sometimes all we need to do is give someone the gift of actually openly and effectively listening to them. It's not about what's under the Christmas tree. It's about who's around the table, whether that be around Christmas time or any time of the year. That is priceless. You can't buy that. There's so many organizations out there, especially at this time of the year. Speak up. Allow the pride to drop. Get the help you need.
A lot of people have this idea, right? A lot of people want to make a difference in the world. That difference starts inside, right? Like everything that you do in the outer world is a reflection of your inner world, right? If you cannot manage your mind and your emotions, find a nice quiet place and go inward, right? Find that space, find that peace within, because inner peace doesn't come from anywhere else. It's inside you, and you just have to connect to it.
By sharing with one another, we create a community, and communities make a difference in the world. The best way to predict your future is to create it. You can leave behind what you don't want, build on what you do, and create new dreams, desires, and develop your future.
Don't be somebody outside of the arena that's outside judging and ridiculing, making fun of people who are brave enough to be in the arena. Be in the arena. Be willing to be pushed over, get your knees scuffed, get muddy in your face, and keep getting back up again, because then you'll be doing greatly. This life, it's not a dress rehearsal. It's the real thing. It's because she left her heart on the floor. Boy, oh boy, that's powerful. We need to be willing to be real if we're visible and if we're vulnerable, and we show that to...
I'm going, why aren't you upset? Why are you sitting here and you're very calm and you're very happy? Why is this not affecting you? Nothing happened. Still happy. I suddenly realized I'm not my thinking.
The naturalness of death, like life, when we don't feel that we should be the one to control it or to decide it, it opens us up to a beautiful place of really allowing ourselves to feel what it is that you are to feel. You have to know dark to know light. You have to know love to know loss. Part of the reason I missed you so much was because I was so loved by you. Part of the reason why I so wish you were here is I so loved our Saturday morning walk, and I felt an energy really strongly. If I do this right now, I can feel it. I feel it in my hand a lot. And it felt really strong. And in my head, I'm thinking, Ted.
When we're continuing to lead a life that is not in line with who we are, then that is a state of being out of ease, which is dis-ease, which of course develops into disease. I think I should show up in the world like this. I wear these masks. I think the world expects me to be like this. And so I show up in these roles.
How do you want to be remembered? How do you want people to talk about you after you've passed on? You know, what's going to be, your defining moments in life? Like all that stuff that we quite often don't think about because the answer is a bit hard to find. But if you keep asking why, and really explore that and have fun with that, then you'll tap into something really deep and really personal that's in your core. And that's your true being. That's your purpose. That's your potential. Once you operate from that space, like why you do the things you do, and you don't even question it, then nothing can stop you.
Havening is the transitive verb of haven, and haven means safe place. I think most of us walk around thinking we are looking for love and happiness, but we're actually not in the first instance. What we're looking for is safety. The most important relationship is the one with yourself. 3 most important words in any relationship are communication, communication, communication. If you're not seen and heard and acknowledged in a relationship, that's a huge red flag.
I mean, the other thing is just for everyone to know there's nothing wrong with you. You already work perfectly. You're not broken and you don't need fixing. You may have some funny ideas about yourself or the world, but you have this source of, peace and well-being and mental health and clarity already there within you. And if you are willing to go looking for it, I promise you'll find it. So you have very, very good reason to be hopeful, no matter what you may have been through.
So a lot of times when I ask people, okay, what are emotions? What are good emotions? They'll say, oh, like happy and joy and love. Yeah, those make us feel good. Those are comfortable emotions to feel. Well, what do you think bad emotions are? And I get the answer, angry, sad, depressed, lonely, all of those emotions that are uncomfortable to feel.
If people aren't making those sacrifices to get to that position, or they're going out and they're like, yeah, do you know what, I want to spend this and spend that, and I want to buy this and I want to buy that, and then they're chipping away at their investment money, then ultimately it's going to fail. It's discipline. Discipline is a big factor into business, and this is why a lot of people, they're not disciplined, or they start it and then they realize the amount of discipline you need.
The most important takeaway from today is the way you feel about anything, is the words you say to yourself and the pictures you make in your head. And the rule is what is expected tends to be realized. And what does this mean? It means that your thoughts, again, scientifically, your thoughts and your mental images scientifically become the blueprint that your mind works to make your reality.
Because I was always so ashamed of the bad things, I never addressed them. I just put them up in a big ball. So the courage is to look at that shame and let go of the shame and come to a place where there's self-acceptance of who you are as a person. And that opens up the world. If you can't be defeated by fear, there really isn't much that can stop you. And that's how...
There is no real difference between the big, famous, rich names you look up to and you. It can seem like they are better or more enlightened, and it could be so easy when you're listening to them every day and you're filling your head with their wisdom to kind of bypass yourself, like give up your own sense of strength, that you're a source as well, because you're listening to other people who seem to have all the wisdom.
Fear truly is what holds us back from living the life we're meant to live, from being who we are meant to be. It is a prison. And when we have the courage and when we're brave enough to truly look within, to heal those emotional wounds, to take action and walk through those fears.
I'm not pushing one way or another. I'm not pushing open. I'm not pushing
polyamory. I'm not pushing divorce. I'm not pushing staying together. What I really desire for the people who I help are for them to really get to a place where they really understand what they want, not what their partner wants, but what they want. And sometimes, wanting to have sex with somebody else, there's a root of something else that's actually there.
Yes.
And so sometimes we just need to get down to the root and what the real desire is.
Who am I? Big thing for people once their families grow up and leave, or their relationships end, or their careers or job, that particular role or job ends. The question is, who am I? We're so immured with these. They're not externals, but they are external to the essence of you. So they define us. I think I use them as signifiers. I am a mother. I am a manager. I am a police person. I am a wife. I'm a partner. all of these things which relate to a role or a function.
This can be used for emotions, all negative emotions. It can be used for traumatic experiences, painful memory. It can also be used for physical pain that has an emotional basis. Everyone has kind of a thermostat of how much good and ease and flow we allow into our lives. We have to keep kind of turning that thermostat and opening ourselves up to a little bit more. And as soon as you open yourself up to a little bit more ease, a little bit more flow, you get something that you wanted.
They can find their way through the darkness, that they don't need to be as scared of it as they might have once been. And that there are even answers that we can find in the darkness. If we take time to be still, if we take time to appreciate that stillness, then we may find the answers that we're looking for. Recognizing the relationship between sleep dreams and our mental health, but specifically how grief shows up for us. And this is one of the reasons, as I say, quite controversially in the book, I challenge the 5 stages of grief. Grief is more like a roller coaster than it is a flight of stairs. We do not grieve in stages. There are no stages of grief.
Life activation and a number of other healing techniques that we do came directly out of that. And no matter what the person, if they receive a life activation, it's going to open up something in their life that's going to start them moving towards their purpose. And it's different for every person what exactly that looks like, because we're all unique individuals with a unique purpose to learn, that we can create and manifest our realities.
But once you accept that emotions are tools and you educate yourself as to what the emotions are and what they're telling you, you now then can practice the 3rd step, which is to take a deep breath when you have an emotion and take a step back from the situation. Then the next step is to assess what's going on. Remember the basic relationship rule. The person is doing the best they can, given their model of the world, how they see what's going on, and their skill sets.
To lower inflammation and reduce joint pain and other osteoarthritis symptoms. And I'm just very inspired to share those other things, because osteoarthritis it's just not seen as a sexy enough disease. It's like people think everyone gets it when they're old. That's also not true. It's not a normal part of aging. And really realize that this is a life-changing diagnosis. And in order to do your best with it, you need to start putting your health first.
What button has been pressed here? Where is it I'm feeling hurt? What's hurting about it? Why does it feel sensitive in the first place? Where did it originate? Is it from this person? Is it a new thing? Or is it that actually they've used this particular phrase, and now that I think about it, that was the phrase that was used in my childhood. Oh, but it was used in a different context. Maybe that's the little girl in me that's being triggered.
Whatever it is that they need to overcome, and it was a little thing, I would need to be better at spelling or whatever it might be. That whole see me, however, about the spelling, that had such a profound promise, a little bit of capability. And taking just a moment to help them overcome that. But I was more about development of people. I think it's simply the ability to say, I need help. I think people are afraid of looking foolish in front of a group of people.
You can call in that energy for yourself. You can call it in for others. So, for example, you could work with the 10th ray and the ray of the Maitreya, and work with creating that divine order in your life. Yeah, you can decide that you're going to work with this energy to reset your life to divine order.
That's what the spiritual health revolution is about. It's about going deep, deeper than we've gone before, and being okay with ourselves to a whole new level. Because that's what you need to be to go that deep. You need to learn a whole new level of self-acceptance, owning who you are, having a level of kindness and compassion for yourself that one has never had before, for whatever reason.
Just wanted to, if you are someone listening, I just wanted to say that don't be afraid to get yourself out there, because you never know who needs your voice. And believe me when I say, when you use that voice, you're going to impact someone else's life. A lot of people that I meet never read a book by a deaf person, and it's very unfortunate. I always wanted to write a book about my deaf experience, because even my family themselves, they never read a book by a deaf person.
Mentally and psychologically, we're battling with ourselves. And it took me a long time to find the courage, because I was scared. I was scared of being judged. I was scared of failing. I was scared of embarrassing myself. I was scared of not being good enough. So where I found the courage was a pivotal moment in my life. And that was, believe it or not, having a tumor, having a life-threatening disease, and all my life turned upside down.
Being honest with yourself and seeing those qualities, admitting and accepting those qualities that you maybe didn't want to deal with throughout your life, or you were feeling ashamed of, or they made you feel less than, and looking those flaws, or dragons, I like to call them, in the eye, and realizing that you are what you are in part thanks to those qualities as well. And if you go even further down that road, eventually you discover that actually your true value lies in those things which were so hard to accept maybe before. Very often it's our struggles and our challenges that give us that value that we have to carry to the world. So I believe that those dragons or those flaws, they're not your enemies, they're our friends if you have the courage to work with them properly.
When you go to a doctor for cancer, their main goal is just to treat that tumor. That's their goal. Excise this tissue, treat that tumor. That's it. They're looking at this little section of you, whether or not you're going to develop cancer or whether or not you can overcome it. It takes a perspective where you look at your whole body. It made more sense to me to nourish my body so it could heal, rather than to poison my body with toxic treatments, hoping that maybe I would get well.
Is to help you understand that suffering is not something that is an outside in thing. It's something that happens from the inside out. Even when circumstances are not the best, it's still due to the way that you're looking at them and the way that you're attaching to them, not the circumstances themselves. Understand yourself so that you can actually enjoy your life. Like that is.
If you still want to beat up or murder or kill, trust me, I was there. Like the people that hurt you, then you're definitely not there. Because like you want to get to a point where they have no control of you. Like that's where I'm at. That's where my initial, like I want to get to a point where like they have no control over me. I hire coaches, I hire therapists, I hire people because I want to be the best version of myself. And I really believe that it's an ongoing and continual process. We can't do a lot of these things alone. We need accountability. If you break your arm, are you going to try and fix it yourself? Even if you're a doctor, you're going to still go see a doctor. Like,
I think if you've ever been in a position where you haven't been included and you've felt like you've had to hide a part of yourself, then you do get passionate about being able to be your authentic self for you, but also for the other people around you as well. You can't look at someone and say, you don't look autistic. And in neurodiverse individuals, their brains are wired differently. So you can actually pick it up on scan. So you can, if you put somebody through an MRI scanner, you will see the differences in how their brain functions or the neurological paths function compared to somebody who is neurotypical.
I think we're going to be invincible and we're going to be young forever, but inevitably everybody's going to get old. Everybody's going to want to stop working, go on more holidays, sit with your feet up and drink wine or whatever you want to do. But we say if something did happen to you, if you were to pass away, or if you were to become unable to work due to accident or sickness, I think it's really important to just sit down and have those awkward conversations. And if you didn't want to talk to it with your loved ones, because it is quite a sensitive subject, we just see if your family ultimately is looked after. This is really important when there's a young family and there's maybe one breadwinner. If the family are solely dependent on the breadwinner to pay the bills.
That is the strength and the vitality of your memory, concentration, focus, clarity, and brain stamina. Absolutely bar none. Now, that tube all by itself, no matter how much damage or trauma or concussions or stress or divorce or kids or sleeplessness, whatever, at 21, it starts to unravel all by itself. So it starts to become less potent. So you're unraveling your brain, or your microtubules are unraveling. And that's why brain fog comes on slowly. We don't notice it. You wake up and you don't realize that 5 years ago you woke up clearer. If you are 30 pounds overweight, your brain actually shrinks 30%.
I worked hard to try to get myself back to the place where I wouldn't repeat that mistake. Because, I think that's what happens a lot of times. We make a bad decision, or we end up in a relationship or a situation, doesn't have to be a relationship, and then we get ourselves out of that situation, and what do? We jump right into something else. I mean, I've seen it myself. You jump from working too much to drinking too much to eating too much to shopping too much. I mean, whatever it is. So you have to almost dig down a little bit deeper. And I started, once I quit drinking, I started asking myself, okay, I had to start dealing with them face to face and sit with them. And that's tough.
My life, I've been Billy the boxer. Now I'm Billy, and who's Billy? I really started to question myself, life. Transitional period I found really difficult. I made loads of mistakes. went through depression, and I hit rock bottom. And it was when I hit the bottom, that was the moment I realized, well, I can either go that way or that way. Then you've always got a choice. And I decided to go upwards. I went to work on myself, and I dismantled Billy the boxer, just stripped him bare, and it wasn't pretty. It was tough. It was a real difficult journey, really getting through my ego and my identity of Billy the boxer, to be free from it, to create the next phase of my life. And it was a real journey, and it wasn't I transformed overnight. No, it was doing the work over time.
Very insecure because I hadn't got my mask in place. I remember feeling so uncomfortable when people looked my way. I remember kind of holding my head down, trying not to draw attention, trying not to look people eye to eye, trying not to be seen. Like, what's all this hiding about? When you're going to let people see the real you? When you're going to show up for real? When you're going to quit hiding? When you're going to let people see you, Dion? These questions, they took my breath away. Like, I had been wearing my mask for 40 years. I had never considered showing up without it. And yet here I was being challenged in the most deep and profound way to let you see me.
You can get angry and determined and turn your life around. And I suppose with everything that I was having to endure, I suppose pulling myself back from the brink, the suicidal, depressed, oh God, what an awful, pulling myself back from there. Because of all these things that happened to me, you go, okay, that's interesting. It hurts, it's upsetting, but what do I learn from it? So make sure you extract the lesson. That's how you navigate any difficult situation. You've already been through something that has taught you the skills you need to get through it.
It's gotten to the point where a man's safe space is in his relationship. It's the only place that he feels he can be safe. Thereby, partner becomes not only lover, but his therapist, mother, friend, all of confidant, right? Not only are the women not getting that emotional connection that they want, but they're also playing 5 or 6 roles in the relationship. The fallout from that is beyond the fact that it's not a healthy relationship, is that one of the most common stories I see is when the woman finally has enough. And maybe it's not all her, but usually it's her. When the woman has enough and she's like, can't do it anymore, he leaves the relationship. That man is broken, absolutely broken, because he doesn't have a social circle.
I knew I had low self-esteem, and now I had to ask myself, who am I? So I thought I was okay, I was just there. But I started writing. But the thing is, when you do something that a lot of people don't do, they make you feel like you are a fraud. So even though I was writing, And I wrote numerous books from the time I was 13 to 17. Everyone who I would give the book to would crush my spirit, saying, "Oh, you're a terrible writer. You copy this from another author."
Gosh.
And, I felt like I was a fraud. I was like, oh, wait a minute, but I haven't stolen this from any books because, I don't really, I never used to really read as a kid.
A misconception about capsule wardrobes is they all have to be neutral colors. It doesn't necessarily need to be. It just needs to be that all of your clothes are in the same color palette. Right. And so I always tell people you want to choose 3 to 4 neutrals and 2 to 3 colors. And that is how you make your color palette. And so the other piece of that is body type. Body type is what keeps you from going into that store and trying on those paper bag pants. It teaches you how to shop. Again, you know what your body type is and you know what kind of items you should be looking at.
All the people I was working with and supporting at that time were saying a lot of the same things. I'm tired, I'm busy, and I don't have enough time. And this is what I felt. And I was giving them systems. I was giving them assistance. But I felt like everything was a Band-Aid because people were still unhappy or disgruntled or dissatisfied. And it mirrored what I was experiencing as well at that stage of my business. And so I paused in that place of like, I'm unhappy. Yes, my business was successful. It was thriving. It didn't matter how much money I was making at that point because when I was with my children, I was guilty for wanting to spend more time in my business. And when I was in my business, I felt guilty because I should be spending more time with my children.
But even with openness, it's openness to what? So the awareness and consciousness is where it all starts. So you need to be aware and conscious as to what you are all about before you start to relate to yourself or to others in any way. You need to know what your inner narrative is, your inner dialogue is, what your thoughts and patterns are. And the only way to do that and start to engender that openness and that self-compassion, and just don't beat yourself up. I mean, whatever is there, it might be ugly, it may be toxic, it might make you quite sad, but just acknowledge it, but try not to waste any time in beating yourself up because it adds just more onto your emotional burden that you don't need.
So many of us think the problems that we're dealing with are unique to us. But the reality is about 100 billion people have lived before us. Millions of them have written books, and thousands of those books detail somebody else overcoming the same problem that you're currently facing today. Life doesn't have to be so hard. For $20, you can buy a book that condenses decades of somebody else's lived experience and best life lessons, and you can read that in days.
Wow.
You can apply what you learn, and you can avoid pain and develop skills.
They are building blocks, yes, but they are roots, much more than that. They are roots. And the more we want to expand above and grow, the stronger our roots need to be. So they're what is holding everything. And more than that, they are very full of layers. We're very good at manipulating things in many ways, but also spiritually and energetically, the more we progress in our path, the more we see how breath and joy and relaxation impact so many other things. So the more we grow, the more layers are revealed to us. So they start as solid foundations, but they become as a very deep work of connection and understanding of the full picture.
The thought stopping technique, which is another really simple technique, which is brilliant. So it's starting to be aware what your patterns are, your difficult patterns of behavior connected with your anxiety. Starting to listen to how you talk to yourself, what you say to yourself, how you can reduce your anxiety, how you can start to be aware of those difficult thoughts. Having a diary and starting to identify what your specific triggers are and your patterns are that are linked to your anxiety, and working with the difficult thoughts that you have.
There's a lot in that statement, isn't there? At first read, it's like, are you kidding me? Why would you, this person's lying in a hospital bed with scars on their neck, and you're asking them and telling them they must not be very good at it because you're still here. I think it's wonderful to break patterns in people sometimes. We can use that little bit of battle cry, what's happening through me instead of what's happening to me, is a first step of something good happening through us.
You really can't narrow it down to just one reason because there's probably multiple reasons why. And so it really is nice to have a coach come in and like ask you some specific questions and let you, express yourself about this item or these items and give you some space and time to like process it and verbalize it. And it helps so much to have a coach and someone just to listen and acknowledge and validate your feelings. And once you get that kind of off your chest, it's easier to hear yourself say the words and then go, okay, maybe I should let this go. Maybe I'm ready to let this go. Massive breakthroughs and realizations about their choices in their life. So, and it has definitely proven that over and over and over again with our clients.
If you are deriving your worth and your value by how happy you're making other people, or your happiness is dependent upon their happiness, that's where codependency comes in. That's a codependent behavior. And oftentimes, like where we get into this type of people pleasing, it stems really back to childhood. It becomes this self-preservation technique. Oftentimes, people who learn people pleasing as children have a parent that is either, emotionally negligent or avoidant, or maybe emotionally immature. So they're not able to meet the emotional needs of the child. So the child learns to then feel responsible for everyone else's feelings around them. So they people please in order to make the adults in their life happy. Because when the adult in their life is happy, the people pleasing child feels like, oh, I'm loved and I'm valued because I'm doing it. Like I feel responsible for doing it. That attention and recognition that they get for their people pleasing efforts feels like love. It gets misconstrued as love.
People had not been heard for years for who they are. And the instant I was able to connect with them, their whole life shifted that very second, more so than any medication that's ever existed on the planet Earth. So what is the power of healing? It's extraordinary. And many of us get to experience when we get it. Let's put it this way, to pretend to be someone that we're not in order to protect the person that we are. And over time, we have learned how to say things that even we don't agree with. That's amazing that we're actually willing to say something that we, in fact, don't even agree with while we're saying it. So that's what humanity has really become. And in many cases, refusing to speak when we should because we're afraid we're going to be discharged or dismissed or disrupted or thrown off the island one way or another. So we don't speak our truest voice.
Every child is unique. Obviously, they have their own passions, their own interests, their own what have you. And in that same way, every parent is unique and how each family system works. And I think that was the biggest challenge, is trying to make sure that each child and family are being nurtured and supported in the way that they need, in a system that is really designed more to be cogs in a machine. It's a system that is not designed for personalization. And yet every child and every student and every family needs different types of supports and different types of encouragement. And so really finding ways to try and individually tailor how we give each child the tools that they need for success.
The people have not been able to move out into an effective lifestyle. They've been stunted. We do that to each other all the time. Many of us don't know how, or weren't taught how to have healthy relationships and how to sustain them, where we lift each other up rather than hurt them and abuse them.
Absolutely.
And so I help people to overcome. First, I help them see what it is and how it is that they were stuck. And it's a ripple effect. It's not just one person on one person, but we all learn and we all share what we know. The best. It's usually propaganda that we're surrounded with that keeps us or tries to keep us in certain modes. That's not real. What's real is knowing who we are.
What have you learned about yourself this past year? As we have come to the end of this transformative year, I want to take a moment to reflect on the incredible journey we've been on together. Your commitment to self-growth, self-discovery, and a positive change has been both inspiring and humbling. First and foremost, I want to express my deepest gratitude to each one of you for allowing me to be a part of your personal and transformative journey. Your dedication to self-improvement and the pursuit for a more fulfilling life is what's making our community truly special. Thank you to you all that reached out and showed your unconditional love and your appreciation for what I am doing. This past year has been a transformative journey, and I'm excited to reflect on the wisdom that it has brought me personally, from taking leaps of faith in my business to prioritizing my health and finding inner peace. These lessons have shaped my path.
The first person who has to believe it is you. And the first thing you have to get to understanding is the most important story you'll ever tell is the one about you and yourself. And so what I would encourage you is to live your dash. And what exactly is the dash? It's the line between the moment you were born and the moment you pass away. All you can do is live that dash, live that now, live that story that you want to leave behind. And you can do this by simply surrounding yourself with people that nourish your vision. The impact that those individuals have and the impact that podcasts like this one have in our life is phenomenal and oftentimes overlooked.
You can be aware that I'm living a life that is fake, that is false, that is a mask. So it's really getting present of where am I right now? And being okay with that. It's okay to start as the victim. It's okay to start as the martyr. It's okay to start as the people pleaser. It's just not okay if you don't recognize it, because then you can't change it. So first, getting present. And then you have to unpack or unveil so that you can understand what's unconsciously going on. That's the you. And then you have to pivot the habit and behavior. But first, you have to recognize it's only habit and behavior. It's not you. It's just habit and behavior of resistance and protection. So when you can navigate a new behavior, you can change the neural pathway. The neurology is reset.
Please do like, share, and subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel. This is where the difference is made. It creates a ripple effect and other people get to hear. And you never know who just may need to hear this particular episode, and it could save them. More importantly, I am here to help and serve you. This channel doesn't mean anything without you. It's you, the listeners, that make it, and the guests that make it by sharing with one another. We create a community, and communities make a difference in the world. And that just leaves me to say thank you for all your continuous support and love for me, my channel, my podcast, and the coaching work that I do. I have absolute gratitude for each and every one of you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening to Create the Courage to be Fearless. I love you, Anita.